Thank you very much for coming this morning and for sharing your time with us today. I'm one of the members of the board, and so I'd like to welcome you today. Our next speaker is Clay Olsen, who's the Executive Director of Fight the New Drug. And he is very passionate about what he does and very, very good at what he and his partners do out there. In 2005, he co-founded a creative agency called Advent Creative, which set the stage for future endeavors. And in 2009, he and his partners set up Fight the New Drug. They were a group of what those of us on the board termed as young kids walked in and said they had this new product that they'd like to show us and tell us about, and a lot of us just nodded our heads and said, okay, whatever you're talking about, it sounds interesting, but we had no clue, and then invited them to become members of the board. And as they came more and more to our meetings, and we got to know more and more about what they were doing, we also became very excited and very impressed, because what they are doing is challenging and it's very wonderful. And I think it takes a special gift to speak to youth, and they have that gift. They have been featured on ABC Nightline, on Dr. Drew, on NPR, and other national radio spots, radio and television spots. So please welcome Clay Olsen. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. You can hear me okay in the back? Okay, good. I'm excited to be here in front of you guys today. It's been a long journey of kind of what we've been able to accomplish with our organization and kind of what we've been able to learn. And that's really what this presentation is about, is what we've learned from teens and sharing that with you. In my last presentation in the Idaho room, I got through half the slides. So I'm going to try to do a better job at time management and get through this content, because I feel like it's so important, so incredibly important for you guys to understand what we have to tell you here tonight. So by show of hands, how many of you have ever heard of the organization Fight the New Drug at all? Okay, great. Many of you haven't. Has anyone ever sat through any of one of our super boring presentations? Yeah, okay. Well, good luck. This is one of them. No. We're really excited. They said I'd be presenting in some like the small little closet, so this is a shock. But I want to kind of give you an idea of what kind of our angle of how we're coming at this. Because you're looking at me and you're saying, as you'll indicate, like, what do you know? You know, who are you? And I get that. That's fair. But we've been doing this for a while now, and talking to teens. We've had we've presented to tens of thousands of teenagers across the United States in presentations and assemblies in schools, and we've gotten thousands upon thousands of emails from teenagers talking to us about this issue, and we've learned, like I said, we've learned a lot. Our organization, we called it Fight the New Drug. We were founded back in the day. In college, we were kind of young, ambitious, naive guys that wanted to, take over the world, and we ended up kind of pursuing a topic that we never, ever expected to. But it hit close to home. I have a cousin who dealt with an addiction so severe to pornography that it led him to prison. And I asked him when he got out, I said, how did it lead to that? What got you there? And he said, I had no idea what this could lead to. Had I known, I'd have never touched the stuff. And so that kind of sparked this thing within me to kind of say, well, why aren't we talking about this? My background was in film and marketing, and I thought, let's do something, And let's kind of push a campaign. And we naively jumped in, and here we are today. So we go out and talk to teens. That's our approach. We talk to youth. We have a youth flavor. We have a youth drive. And the reason why we approach teens is because we know that's where it starts. Like I said, we've had thousands upon thousands of emails come in our way, and from adults and teens. And every single adult that's contacted us and told us their story of how it got started talked about how it started when they were teenagers or younger. We've received emails from 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, and on up. And I said this in my previous class, they're not writing us and saying, hey, awesome job. They're saying, I need help. And so this is a massive, massive problem that we're dealing with teenagers and youth. And we've got to bridge this gap between your generation and the teenagers, because there's a different vocabulary, there's a different understanding, and a different philosophy to this problem. And we've got to bring that together. And so I want to show you a video, but it's a video of us going out to schools and doing presentations all across the United States. And kind of connecting with the youth. And the reason why I show it to people is because I want them to see how teens are responding to this issue, right? I mean, you're thinking in your heads, wait, you go to schools? That's got to be awkward. That's like the first thing that people say, like, oh, that's got to be awkward. And I'm thinking, it's not awkward. It's not, I mean, it can be, believe me, it can be. But now, the way we position this presentation, the way we deliver this, it's kind of a come one, come all approach. And the teens leave. Hundreds of them run up to the front of the stage to sign our fighter pledge and to get involved and to get a t-shirt and to become involved in this movement. And it's incredible. Teens are looking for this stuff. They want to know the truth about this. But a lot of times as a society, we stick our heads in the ground, we pretend it'll go away. You know, we're like, we'll sweep it under the rug, and this is a difficult topic. I don't know how to address it, therefore I won't. We cannot afford to continue down that way. We cannot afford to. As parents, as community leaders, as influencers, we have got to change fundamentally the way we approach this issue. Okay? And we're going to talk about a little bit of that today. This is the video. I'm going to stop. What I want to do, so again, check that out on our website when you can. What I want to do is talk to you about, we tried to think of the longest name possible for this presentation, and I think we did a good job. We were brainstorming for weeks. Anyway, here we go. What teens wish their parents knew when addressing the issue of pornography. What they wish you knew. Because we talk to them. Through the emails and through the times that we go out and engage with them face to face, we see it. And we hear them. And there's a disconnect. And some of the material that we're going to present to you, we're going to present 5 I wish they knews. Okay? And some of these things are going to be kind of like, yeah, I understand that, I get it, but I still want to talk about it because to so many people, this is not common sense or common knowledge. The first they wish you knew. The first they wish you knew is, again, we talk about this all the time nowadays, but we didn't in the past. They wish you knew that porn can lead to an actual addiction. I underline actual because we're talking about an actual addiction. Here's some emails from some teenagers that we've received. Please help me. I have been suffering from watching porn since I was 11. I am now 15. Please, how do I stop this? I cannot tell my parents. Isabel, 15. Notice a girl. And we receive hundreds of emails from girls that are dealing with this. Here's another one. I am addicted. I know I need to stop. I want to stop, but I get upset and sad, and my brain says, look at porn, which I know is a horrible solution. I know. Jared, 15. Another one, this addiction has been horrible. I'm becoming numb to all the simple pleasures that I used to enjoy. I'm becoming depressed because my own weakness, and every time I fall harder. Eric, 18. My life now would have been much different if my father had understood that porn was a true addiction and that just stop wasn't an option. That's an important one. We used to approach this issue as like, just stop, you pervert. Quit it. Just stop. We now are doing much better and not looking at it that way. This is an actual addiction. If someone came up to you with an alcoholic addiction, or was an alcoholic or an alcohol addiction, you would approach them far differently than as a society we approach pornography addiction. We need to not judge and shame them, but we'll talk about that. We need to understand that there's some things that we need to do as a society and as a family to help them overcome that. Last one from a teen. I've been struggling with pornography for 3 years. I thought of suicide as a result of this. Leo, 13. He's been struggling for 3 years, and he's 13. I'm talking about, guys, this is young. And a lot of you have young kids, some of them 10, 11, 12, and you've never brought up this subject thinking, well, they're not old enough yet. What you'll learn here today is that if you don't talk to them, the pornography industry will, and you're not going to like what they say. They're getting exposed younger and younger, and if they don't understand what it is, we heard one parent say when she was growing up, if it wasn't said, it wasn't wrong. And a lot of teens subscribe to that mentality. If it wasn't said, it wasn't wrong. And so if they don't know, they're going to have a different interpretation. Now, we don't always know this. We didn't always know this. We've come a long way in our society, guys. I want to show you an ad from back in the 1800s, late 1800s, of how we've kind of got it wrong in the past. We've learned a lot in our human society. This is an ad for cocaine toothache drops for children, by the way. This is geared for children. Can you imagine today going into a doctor's office and saying, oh man, I got this toothache, it's killing me. And the doctor's saying, I got just the thing. He pulls out some cocaine, he's like, you got to try this, it's going to make you feel great. It's going to make you forget you have teeth, right? Can you see that today? No way. No way. Why not? Yes, I didn't hear that. Power. Because we know better. We know better now. Science caught up with truth. We finally figured out that cocaine was super addictive. We finally figured out that it could kind of mess up lives, and we stopped offering it to children for toothaches. It'll happen again in our society with alcohol. This is an ad for mothers, with newborn babies, saying that they should drink more alcohol so that the benefits of the alcohol will pass on through their body and onto the nursing child. What? After seeing a bunch of drunken babies stumbling around mid-crawl, we kind of went after that one too. So we no longer do this one because we know better. It happened again with tobacco, a little more known. This is a little better known story, but I want to kind of dig into this story because it's very similar to what we're dealing with today. This is a man by his name is Dr. Raymond Pearl. He was working at Johns Hopkins University back in the 1930s. And he was the first man, get this is interesting, first man to discover that there was a connection between between lung cancer and smoking. First guy. Now, at this time, a lot of people smoked. There were no smoke zones. Everyone smoked. And what do you think happened after this discovery, out of Johns Hopkins University came out? What do you think happened? Statues and parades? No. In fact, it never saw the light of day. His research was squashed by the Goliath of the time, which was the tobacco industry, and he died 4 years later. His research never saw the light of day. And it wasn't until nearly 15 years later where the Reader's Digest came out with an article called Cancer by the Carton, which was the first public attack on the tobacco industry, and this catapulted a 40-year debate where hundreds of millions of dollars were spent to sway the public on whether it was harmful or not. The tobacco industry kind of went the health route. They targeted doctors and said, that it was healthy, it was clean, it was better. This next slide with camels. More doctors smoke camels. We trust doctors. They're in charge of our health. And new scientific evidence on the effects of smoking. I talk about this and I tell you about this because we are in a very similar experience or learning experience in our history today regarding pornography. You see, we know more about the brain today than we've ever known. We know more about addiction than we've ever known. And we're learning that pornography studies are showing that pornography is as addictive as other drugs. It's an actual addiction. And you need to know that. And you need not only know that, but you need to know how. There's a woman by the name of Pat Love that we interviewed, and I want to show you this little clip of her. I flew out to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and interviewed her. She's nationally renowned. She's an author, therapist, doctor, and she talks about adolescence and pornography. And this is what she says.
One of the areas you don't often hear mentioned, it's almost like you don't bring it up in polite conversation, is adolescence and pornography. And we know it's prevalent. We know that young children are seeing pornography. It's frightening at how young our children are seeing pornography. What is especially frightening about this experience in the emerging brain in a brain that's still formulating and organizing is that it changes your sexual set point. It changes your sexual expectations. It changes the stimulation point. It alters your brain in a way that makes you crave more stimulation. You know, if you just think about the fact that our brain has to have stimulation, that's how it gets organized. We love stimulation. We love novelty. We love being entertained. We love anything shiny that's moving, it's interesting and makes us curious. We love that. You know, that's part of human nature. But if you add the sexual stimulation to that, it can be like crack cocaine with your brain. And we don't realize how dangerous it is. As parents, as adolescents, we have to realize what we're doing to our brain, how we're changing it. We're changing it in some ways forever. This is a wonderful instrument, this brain we've been given. And to alter it in that way, you want to do it with consciousness, not just abandonment. You know, it's so accessible, it's so anonymous, it's so addictive. I mean, it is really so much more lethal that we have now a generation of adults who just can't be satisfied or pleased or happy with real life relationships. No one can compete with the constant stream of novelty. And you don't realize how you got there. You got there gradually. Sometimes it started innocently with a normal curiosity, but that can be, again, like crack cocaine, changing your brain forever.
Now let's talk about this changing your brain idea, actually changing your brain. I need you to understand this because when you leave this room and you go engage with adolescents and teenagers and even yourselves, I don't want you just to know that it can be addictive. I want you to know how it can be addictive. Because when you talk to your teenagers, they're going to ask that kind of question. They want to know, and you've got to have those answers. So it starts right here in the brain. We've all got one of these things, and it's the powerhouse of our body. And inside this brain, we have what we call the reward pathway. Okay? You can forget everything underneath that. Just remember the reward pathway. When you do something that you enjoy, Jack, what do you enjoy? Sports. What do you enjoy? Sex. What do you enjoy? Good answer. What's that? You? Yeah, what do you enjoy? What's that? Reading. Okay, when you guys engage in those activities, pleasure chemicals are released into this reward pathway, like dopamine. Okay? And it's natural, and it's fine, and it's good, right? And you feel good, and it makes you want to repeat that behavior. Here's the trick. Those same chemicals are released into this reward pathway when you're doing not so cool stuff, like doing drugs or viewing pornography, except there's a difference. Number one, it's not being released naturally. Those chemicals are being forced to release into this reward pathway. And number two, it's overloading or flooding this reward pathway to the point where your brain literally starts to change and alter, literally starts to rewire itself and physically shift. Now, that's important because your brain starts to build up a dependency and a tolerance to that to the point where the things that you used to enjoy that brought you a lot of satisfaction, like sports, sex, and what? Books, they start to not have the same impact, not the same effect. They don't release enough. And so you start choosing your addiction over the things you used to love to do because you need to feel normal. You need to have that. Your freedom has been gone. And so you need more of it more often and a more hardcore version in order to just feel normal. And over time, the frontal lobes of your brain can actually decrease in size. Have you guys ever heard that? Can actually shrink? It's like a muscle that doesn't get used, atrophy sets in and it actually decreases in size. We wanted to show you what it looks like to have a brain scan of an individual that suffered from several addictions, and I'm talking addictions in general right now, several addictions, and this is what he looked like. You can kind of see, it's kind of small in the back, you'll have to squint, but if you look right in the front area, right there, I mean, can you see that? Addiction messes you up. Okay, for real though, where are the frontal lobes of your brain? Where are they? Right in the front part of your brain. This is where addiction hurts you the most. And guess where it's located? Right in the front of your brain. This is the part of your brain where you make decisions. This is like, they call it, right here, they call it the decision-making area of the brain, where you weigh out pros and cons and think through situations and scenarios. So it's no wonder. It's no wonder that addicts have a hard time stopping their behaviors. It's no wonder that they keep going back to something even though they know it's harmful because their brain has been adjusted, affected, rewired. The part of their brain that's supposed to help them has been affected. So you can kind of start to see why this is so important, because if we can understand the brain science, if you parents can understand the brain science and understand what's really going on, you're not going to treat your child the same way as just stop. You're going to say, okay, if it's gone from a habit to compulsion to an actual addiction, we need help. Okay? And a lot of teens look at us and say, wait, are you kidding me? I don't smoke it. I don't drink it. I don't sniff it. I don't inhale it. I don't, whatever else you do with drugs. I don't know. I don't do any of those things. How is pornography like a drug? Well, you can then say, let me show you. You see, it goes in through the eyes and it triggers a release of chemicals. Chemicals like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, epinephrine. These chemicals flood the reward pathway of your brain to the point where your brain literally starts to rewire itself and change to the point where you build up a dependency and a tolerance to that so that your behavior starts to get impacted and you start to change the way your outlook on life. And you start choosing your addiction over the things you used to love to do because those things no longer cut it. You see, this is the same process that occurs with hard drugs. When it comes to the brain, addiction is addiction. Doesn't matter if it's heroin, cocaine, or pornography, the same process occurs. Now, the impact on the body is totally different. We get that. And we can talk about that. The effects of pornography are far more behavioral, and it affects relationships far more. Doesn't make your hair fall out, teeth turn yellow. Totally. So that's the brain science. You got to understand that. You got to leave this room, and there's so much more to that, but we don't have time to go into it. Continue to research this, and you got to be able to go out there. When you tell your child not to smoke, what do you say? Don't smoke just because. No. You say, don't smoke. It's going to give you lung cancer and kill you. And they're like, oh, really? Okay, I'm listening. We can't approach this, don't do it because. And not to say that we all do that, but I'm saying we've got to approach this in ways, we've got to bring in some science to help the teens understand what's really going on. Okay, so the next they wish that you knew is they wish you knew that porn is different today than it was when you were growing up. Oh boy, is it different. This is a completely different beast today than when you were growing up. When you were growing up and you wanted access to it, you had to jump some social hurdles. You had to go to the movie theater and buy a ticket. You had to go and buy the magazine from across the counter. You had to stash the magazines from you. There was all sorts of social barriers which many people just said it's not worth it and I'm out. And it wasn't nearly as available. Today, it's walking around with them everywhere they go. Any internet-enabled device has access to this content, the best and the worst is porn. And we're talking about, this is totally different. We have some emails from some teens. Said, porn is not just magazines anymore, Mom, come on. And Shelly, 17, second email is, my parents don't know how bad it really is. They think porn is just naked people. Today, porn is much worse than people with no clothes. Playboy used to be kind of like what, the icon for pornography. Today, Playboy is softcore at best, Today, pornography is more violent, more obscene, more illegal, more ridiculously absurd than ever before. And this is the material at which a new generation is basing their definition of love and intimacy. And how do you think that's impacting us? Oh boy, is it impacting us in relationships and as a society as a whole. Another quote from a teen is, it's so in your face today, our society accepts it, so it's everywhere. Mason, 19. So what's the biggest difference between when you were growing up and when your teens are now growing up? What's the biggest difference? It's everywhere. Internet, right? 1993 changed the game forever. Before that, it was an underground industry. It totally existed, but it was underground. It was kind of harder to get. Today, it's above ground. It is a legitimate industry, a $97 billion worldwide industry, and they are powerful. Today, they are the Goliath. Today, they are the ones calling the shots. And the content is more ridiculous than ever, and this is what we're fighting with our teens. So if you think, we have parents sometimes say, oh, come on, it's not that big a deal. Porn existed when I was, young, and it turned out okay. And I'm like, oh boy, you have no idea. This is totally different today than it was when you were growing up. You need to know that. We have what we call the 4 A's. You've heard of the 3 A's, we just added one. The 4 A's of why pornography is so incredibly accessible today versus when you were growing up. And those 4 A's begin with, let me get that. Number 1, accessibility. We talked about that. It's everywhere. It's walking around with them at any point. They can just get access to it. Any internet-enabled device. We're talking tablets, phones, gaming devices, computers. Mark said that earlier. People just protected the computer at first, the home computer, and they thought they were good. Oh, that's just the beginning. That's the tip of the iceberg at this point. Number 2, the second A is affordability. And when we talk about affordability, we're talking about, for teens, free. Okay? Not all pornography is free, and that's why they're a $97 billion worldwide industry. A lot of it costs money, but they kind of create these teaser images or just samplings of their videos or snapshots of some of the photos in their albums to kind of get teen, and that's enough for a teen. Remember, a teen's going to get excited at a young age off of an underwear ad, right? And then as they get older, that no longer cuts it. The dopamine's not enough, and so they need more of it more often, a more hardcore version. Well, as a teen, these free teaser images are enough. And by the time they get a credit card and they get older and they need to start paying, man, they're already hooked. They're already locked and loaded. So it's affordable. The third A is it's anonymous. In my opinion, this is the kind of the fuel on the fire. If I smoke, I smell like smoke. If I do other drugs, my eyes are dilated or whatever. My teeth turn yellow. If I do porn, that's harder. The effects come out far more in my behaviors, and they're very subtle. In fact, parents come up to us and say, well, how can I tell if my teen's addicted? I'm like, well, sadly, a lot of the telltale signs are actually just signs of them being a teenager as well. So it's very difficult to kind of pinpoint some of these things, like, more seclusion, more withdrawn, more moody, things like that. Those are all signs of addiction, but they're also all signs of teenager. So it's hard, and a lot of times, the real eruption of kind of the manifestations of this problem don't come until later on in life, when you're dealing with a serious, deeper relationship with a marriage. A lot of wives think that it's because of something that had happened within the last year that their husband all of a sudden got addicted to pornography. We've received hundreds and thousands of emails from people that have told us their stories, and not one said that they got hooked as an adult. Every single one started when they were teenagers and young. So it starts there, and it just fuels up until they can't hide it anymore. And the last one is it's addictive. Those 4 A's are a perfect cocktail for why pornography is so rampant today. And you need to understand that. Quickly, Viola, how much time do I have? 16 minutes. 20 minutes. Okay. We are going to hurry. You guys, a lot of you already know this. What's the average age of exposure? Yeah, that's the kind of the new research, and I haven't kind of dared to lock myself into that just yet. But it's true, it's 9, but we've kind of stuck with the old survey that says 11 because that's what most people accept. But you're right. I was going to mention that the new studies are coming out indicating that it's 9 years old. And I believe it because, like I said earlier, we're getting emails from 7-year-olds not saying, this is cool, but I need help. 8-year-olds. How many of you have people in that age group, 7 or 8-year-olds? Yeah, you're thinking oh, when they turn 16, we'll have a talk, right? They better watch out, right? Oh boy, you better be thinking about a talk now. And I'll tell you, we'll talk about how. Because I know what you're thinking. I don't want to be the one that triggers that. We'll talk about that. 9 out of 10 youth ages 8 to 16 have been exposed to this stuff, guys. It's not a question of if, but when. When will they be exposed? And if the industry gets to them first, you're a second one in, and they're going to question everything you say. If you don't educate them, the industry will. Okay? A couple other statistics. Exposure to pornography. Where is it happening? In the home. Nearly 80% of unwanted exposure to pornography occurs in the home. This is our domain. This is what we're in charge of, and that's what's happening. We got to change that. We got to do a better job at protecting our homes. Largest group of those accidentally exposed to pornography is youth between the ages of 12 and 17. And the industry has a lot to do with that number. And girls, you're kind of tuning out saying, oh, this is a guy problem. 30% of the emails that come into our organization are female, saying, I need help. 30% of traffic to websites, to pornographic websites are from females. 30% of addicts are females. And that number has skyrocketed over the last decade. See, the pornographers, the pornography industry realized that they were missing an entire market. So they stopped creating things that were full-blown visual, and they started creating things more emotional that appeal more to women. And all of a sudden, that number started to skyrocket. And it's growing, and it's going to continue to grow. This is no longer a guy's issue, just a guy's issue. This is a societal public health issue. We need to address this. It's a big industry. You've probably heard this statistic. The MLB, NBL, NBA, NBC, NFL, NHL, ABC, and CBS, the pornography industry makes more money than all of those organizations combined. It's a $97 billion worldwide industry, and they are smart, and they target youth. Why do you think they target youth? Money. But wait, it's free. What's that? Long-term users. That's the next one, guys. What they wish you knew is that they're being targeted. You see, a lot of parents overreact when they hear that their child's been looking at pornography because they're so angry because they think that that their child sought this out and whatnot. And a lot of times they get sought out, and they get curious, and they continue to keep coming back, and it becomes an addiction, and they were a victim of those marketing tactics. You got to understand that we had a girl email us and share it with us. She was searching for, and this probably sounds very familiar, searching for a school project from a video website and had a bunch of scientific videos on it. One of those was a pornographic video. It didn't have any labels. It didn't have any warning signs. This is a common story. And the pornographers target teens because if they can get them young, see, they know their product is addictive. They're not dumb. If they can get them young, they potentially have a lifelong client, which means this. And it's all about that. Just like it was for the tobacco industry, they targeted teens because they knew that they would be addicted longer. A longer time for them to spend money. So we want to give you 5 quick marketing tactics of the industry. I'm going to breeze through these because I want to get the heavier things I want to get to are after this. But you need to know these. The kids want you to know these because they want you to understand how to protect them. Number 1, free teaser images. We talked about that. Teaser images are kind of things that they show you portions of whatnot, and they're sufficient for teenagers in most cases. Although it can go to an addiction where they start to steal money in order to pay for it. We had a girl in Texas tell us her story, and she had stolen over $40,000 off her mother's credit card in order to pay for her porn addiction. And then when she got found out, they had to send her to a rehab center for $40,000 a month to get healed. That was an expensive addiction. So they're getting hooked here, and it's leading to a lot of things that are scary and expensive. The second one is innocent word searches. A lot of times, individuals will search on Google Images. They'll search like My Little Pony. They'll search water sports. They'll search, or someone said in the other room, a hot rod. And what do they get? A lot of times they're getting a lot of things that are not those things that you'd expect. A lot of times they're getting inappropriate content, pornography specifically, and that's, My Little Pony, come on. I mean, a lot of little kids are searching for that kind of stuff. Disney princesses is another one, and cartoon characters, and we'll talk about that. Number 3, cartoon characters and child icons. A lot of times what pornographers will do is they'll actually illustrate these icons like Belle from Beauty and the Beast or these people that kids look up to and idolize, and they'll draw them, illustrate them in totally inappropriate situations and in sexually explicit ways. And what does that teach the child? This is something that they love and respect and look up to. What that tells them is oh, wow, it starts to normalize it over time. It starts to make them think that over time maybe that's that I'll be, do some of these things or engage in some of those actions. but later time, and that gets younger and younger. Number 4, I'll go to here. Number 4 is pop-up ads and banner ads. Kids love flashy things. They love things that are kind of interesting, and a lot of times on the side it's just barely inappropriate, and they click on that ad and it takes them to something that they didn't love. Oh, and the last one is the flash games. Kids love games. And they'll a lot of times these games will kind of start off innocently, and all of a sudden advertisements for full-blown pornographic websites will pop up on the screen at the bottom or on the side. And even times we've seen, or we've heard that where games will actually start to introduce sexually inappropriate material in deeper levels. These are just some of the ways that the pornography is pinpointing teens and young children, and so that they can get that addiction at a young age. The next, they wish they knew, they wish you knew, is they wish you knew that you need to talk to them. You need to talk to them. I know it's uncomfortable. You think, oh, this is going to be so awkward. We had a parent in one of our presentations in D.C. say, well, how do I do this? It's going to be so awkward. Another parent piped up and said, it's not awkward for me. And everyone turned to her and was like, oh, what do you do? How is this not awkward? And she said, well, first of all, we've been talking about this for a long time. I don't remember the first conversation we had. And everyone was like, oh, you see, the days of the birds and the bees talk are over. Just one time are over. Here's an email from a teen. I don't remember my parents talking to me about it until it had become a problem. I was 11 or 12 or 10 or 11. I wish I had understood the issue sooner. I wish they knew how to address it and speak about it openly and without feeling shy or disgusted. Olivia, 17. My parents never addressed porn until after it was too late. That's a theme that you will see. They didn't address it until it was too late. And they just said that I wasn't allowed to go onto those sites. I was addicted to porn before I turned 11. Every chance I got, I'd watch it. Parents need to say more than you can't watch it, that they need to explain why and how it affects you. Kevin, 19. We hear this all the time, not my kid. And that may be true. Great, I hope it is true. But statistically speaking, we're talking about the vast majority of kids are dealing with this on some level. Okay? And so we need to address it that way. There's this idea, this is probably the number one thing that stops us from talking to our kids. The curiosity myth, right? The idea that if I talk to them, I'm going to introduce it to them, and then they're going to go, on a rampage and go look at this stuff. I don't want to break that innocence. I get it. I totally get it. And if dealt with inappropriately, if you say, hey, son, don't look at these types of things. Yeah, you're going to have some major problems. Don't do that. When we do our presentations, I can't tell you how many principals and parents say, so when you come and talk to our kids, are you going to show porn? I'm like, are you kidding me? How counterproductive would that be? No, but the curiosity myth, guys, we cannot afford to subscribe to this. We cannot afford to. Kids are emailing us too young these days. The average age of exposure is too young to subscribe to this. Now, the way to do it is important, though. That's very true. The way to do it is important. But the quick answer to the question, when do I start the conversation? How young do I start? The quick answer, because everything is different, every child is different, every maturity level is different, every cultural whatever is different. And so we can't say, well, at this age, at this month, this day. No. But we can say is earlier than you think. Sooner than you think. As we've heard from so many other of those teens saying, they needed to talk to me earlier. I didn't get it in time. Like I said, the days of glossing over the birds and bees talk once are long gone. This is a layered conversation, an ongoing conversation that starts very young and maybe never ends until maybe they're totally out of the house and married and whatnot. But it's an ongoing conversation. And you start with simple things. You don't come at them with talking about child porn and this and whatnot. You talk to them about no-touch zones. You talk to them about, private areas and why it's not inappropriate to take your clothes off. And you kind of start to talk about healthy sexuality and what the intimacy looks like and what love is. And you start to illustrate those kind of things and show by example. And you introduce things. And eventually, you kind of talk about kind of then the counter to those things. The counter to true love, the counter to true intimacy and healthy sexuality, and how those things can be harmful. And you do that over time as well, a layered, ongoing conversation, like peeling an onion. How do I bring it up? Really quick, because we're running quickly out of time. First of all, you got to be educated. You need to be educated, and this is part of it. You're here because you want to be educated, but this is just a half-a-day seminar. This is not nearly enough. You need to go out to those booths out there, and you need to learn from them. A lot of them have dedicated their lives to research and to developing tools and resources for you guys. Engage with them. Get their materials. And keep learning. There's so many websites out there offering education. Get educated. That's number one. Number two, take time to talk. Make sure you have ample time. Don't do it right before you have a meeting or you have to leave somewhere. Make sure that you have ample time just in case something comes up that's going to require an opening up or a deeper explanation. Make sure that you find the right place that they feel comfortable. Make it a one-on-one. I'm all about family gatherings where you talk about the issue on a broad sense, where everyone's in one room. But when you talk about that kind of intimate conversation, make sure that's one-on-one for sure. Stay calm. Stay calm. The first knee-jerk reaction is, what did you do? If it comes up where they have an issue or they've been looking at it, that's your knee-jerk. They're your flesh and blood, and they're doing something that you think is totally not okay. That's your knee-jerk reaction. Stay calm. The worst thing you can do, we've had so many emails coming to us from people saying, like, I'll never talk to my parents again. I did that once. Worst experience of my life. Don't let that be your child saying that. Don't judge. You are not perfect either. You are an adolescent too. Remember that this is a different beast than when you were growing up, and stay calm, don't judge, love, and listen. Okay? What do I say? I don't have time to go into a lot of this. There's a lot of resources out at our booth. In fact, there's what we created this, the parent guideline. The guideline, and you can go pick this up at our booth, and it outlines a lot of things that I'm talking about in greater detail about how to approach this. But I'll just go over a couple. Number one, ask questions. Listen, ask questions. Again, once they start opening up, your immediate reaction is going to want to come in with your opinion and come in with kind of your stance. Listen. If you listen and you ask questions like, oh, really? Well, how'd you learn that? Or where'd you first see it? Or when was the last time? All these kind of things, they're going to be far more open to kind of learning how to express their ideas and their understanding so that you can kind of help steer that. And if you hold on to that rope, then you have a far better chance. Teach them the facts. Share your family values. I put both of those together one after another because I want you to understand this. We do a pretty good job at number 3. A fairly good job. Especially in religious communities, we do a pretty good job at number 3. What we do a pretty horrible job at is number 2. And mostly because we just don't know. We don't know. So get educated and bring your family values, whatever they may be, whatever your beliefs are, your set of family values, and bring the science together, and that's the best combination to approach a teen, because the teenagers are still trying to figure themselves out when it comes to number 3. A lot of them are still, finding themselves, and if you come at them only with number 3, which I feel is very important, but if you come only with number 3, sometimes for a teenage mind, that's not enough. So number 2 and number 3, coming at them with that. And the fourth one is repeat. Again, layer the conversation. Ask questions, teach them facts, share your family values, repeat, 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 ongoing. Am I out of time? Got a couple minutes? 5 more minutes. Okay, we are at our last. I didn't even get this far in my last one, so I'm glad. They wish you knew, the last one. This is, they wish you knew that you are part of the solution. Can you understand why I was so upset that I didn't get to this one? Because it's so important. You are part of the solution, a major part of the solution to this issue. Now, here's a couple emails that we've gotten. I wish they would have gotten me counseling and support and other help while it was still new. I wish that it would have been something we could have talked about before I hit bottom. Another one. That was the only one I was going to share. So, guys, you're part of the solution, a big part of the solution. And you've got to understand that. You've got to be aware of that. And I've got some ideas up here for you to do that. We kind of got this wheel, the porn prevention wheel. Be prepared, pay attention, help protect, set a standard, be an example. I want to talk about each one of those real quick. Be prepared. I already talked about that a little bit. That's part of the education. Be prepared not only intellectually with the education and the knowledge how to approach this, but be prepared also emotionally. You may hear things that you do not want to hear. You may hear things that are very difficult to hear. But let's go back to some of the other points I made. Stay calm and don't judge. Be prepared. Mentally prepare yourself for that kind of a conversation if it comes to that. Another one is pay attention. So many parents are just completely oblivious and they're not paying attention to some of the behaviors their teens are having or are engaging with, but also some of the devices that they own and that they have access to. Pay attention to your teen. Pay attention to what their needs are and what some of their beliefs are. Set a standard. This is an important one. Establish an agreement with your family, not for your family, but with your family. I can't tell you how much more success you're going to have if you gather together your family and you talk about the harmful effects of pornography, the industry, and there's a lot more that you could share that we did not talk about today. And if you do that, your teens, if they're not already deep into this, they're going to kind of say, yeah, what can we do? We want to tap into the youth rebellion. That's what our organization tries to do. Tap into youth rebellion, but rather than rebelling against society and authority, have them rebel against the drug. Rebel against an industry that manipulates them. And I can promise you there's power there, and we've seen it. So have the youth, get them involved in this. And if they understand the true effects and what this is doing to women, how the industry is totally, messing up lives, they'll kind of say, yeah, what should we do? And then you establish an agreement with them. And by the way, this is not only for your kids, but for you as well. Okay? This agreement, this establishing agreement, if you say, okay, no internet after 10 p.m., that goes for you too. Because if your kid sees you after 10 p.m. looking at the internet, but they can't, it's a contradiction and they'll notice. Okay? So help protect, which goes back to how many of you have filtration systems on your computers at home right now? Great. How many of you have filtrations on every internet-enabled device at your home? Awesome. Everyone else? Get them. Okay? There's a lot of good that comes from the internet, but there's a lot of bad, and we need to help protect that. Filter every internet-enabled device and supervise those devices. A lot of parents are kind of, not any of you, of course, you're all very technologically advanced, but a lot of parents kind of don't understand technology all that much, and so that when it comes to an internet filtration system, they load it up and they say, good, we're protected. You've got to supervise those devices. There's a lot of things that you need to continually modify and adjust to match the behaviors of your children. Be an example. We talked about this. Make sure that you are an example of, and I'm not just talking about of following the rules. This is an important one, and I'm wrapping up now. Be an example when it comes to healthy sexuality. I cannot stress that enough. Be an example of what it means to truly love somebody. Be an example of what intimacy looks like. Your teens can see that, and I can guarantee you that that's not what they're seeing on porn sites. Help them understand that distinction and difference and what healthy looks like and what unhealthy looks like. Let's see. That's just those circles again, that circle. I already talked to you about the guideline at the booth. I'm wrapping up. Get that if you can. You can get it on our website as well. I want to talk to you about one other thing about Fortify. And I have 2 minutes less. Here we go. Fortify. When we started this whole campaign, we were an awareness campaign, and that's it. We were the megaphone. That's what we wanted to be, the megaphone for awareness and education on a youth-based led kind of effort. We wanted to help teens kind of tap into that youth rebellion and tap into the peer-to-peer approach from dude, check this out, to dude, that's messed up. And as we went out and did that, and we talked with thousands and thousands of kids, we got thousands of emails saying, we need help. And we thought, okay, that's great. We've got a ton of resources on our website, and we'll send you there. And they weren't going. And we didn't know why. And after a little digging, we realized that it was because these teenagers, A, don't have a credit card, and most of the organizations providing help, great organizations, for this audience, require money. They're not offering all their services for free, and so it costs money. And they don't have a credit card, and they require parental consent, both of which teens at this that are contacting us don't have and are unwilling to get. And so they're stuck. And as a society, we're saying, stay in that dark corner until you're older and have a credit card, then come talk to us and we'll help you out. Not okay. So a year and a half ago, we teamed up with a team of professionals, and we started developing a free program for teens. And this free program is video-based and dynamic. We've got an actor out of LA coming in. We're launching it in about 4 months. We've already got 4,000 pre-registered teens for this program, and we have now advertised this. That just goes to show just how incredibly in need these teens are. So this program is going to be launching. It's called Fortify. It's going to be launching in about 4 months. But after we got done writing the scripts for the videos, we decided we had a book. And so we put that together, and here's a book, and you can get it at our website or at our booth. And a lot of parents are picking this up for their teens or for someone that they know, and a lot of the content's very powerful for that audience as well. So if you have a teen that's struggling, wait 4 months and you have a free resource. And I can't tell you how excited I am. We put over $100,000 into the development of this program, and it's going to be incredible for teens. And I'm excited to offer that to them. I'm going to skip this because we're done. Guys, I'm excited that you guys all came. It shows me that there's such a demand to learn about this issue. It shows me that we're growing because the audience is growing each year at UCAP. Thank you for having me. Become a fighter.